Come on, big guy. Well, I used to love just hanging out with my dad, digging in the dirt, driving the tractor. Not bad. Give it to the cow. My goal and my passion is to show that dairy cows are a big part of the solution to climate change and to greenhouse gases, and they're not the problem.
People are gonna be like, oh boy.
Good. There is certainly a divide between the perception of agriculture and the reality of agriculture. And a lot of that just comes from just a lack of education. People of my generation, frankly, have never been to a farm. I give a lot of tours. The consensus at the end is like, wow, that's way more complex than I thought.
My name is Stuart Turner. I'm an independent board certified agronomist. So I'm the tech support guy for the producer. So I help the producers decide what they're going to plant, how they're going to plant it, how they're going to feed it, how they're going to irrigate it, and how they're going to prepare it and harvest it and then store it. I first actually met Austin Allred's father, Jerry Allred. They had just purchased a half interest in this Royal Dairy. And Jerry confided in me, he says, I have a young son, his name is Austin, he's very smart, and he's really internally motivated. I want to change this dairy from a conventional dairy to a sustainable operation. He's the guy that's gonna get it done.
Being a steward over the land is something I take really seriously. A steward over the animals, something I take really seriously. There's no doubt that there's climate change. The real question and discussion begins at what can we do to improve it.
How are you, my friend?
I started working with Austin. We talked through the process of what are things we could do on this dairy. And one of the options that arose was, we can do a better capture and better separation of the waste. That's phase one.
The solid waste, almost all of it goes to compost. The cows aren't just pooping out like their leftovers. The process that their body is putting that feed through is getting it ready for the soil. The liquid waste has been a challenge. Most dairies have these lagoons that are storing this liquid manure, which is a lot of where the methane release comes from.
The worm bed idea came up through biofiltro.
The stuff stinks, you don't want to get too close. We essentially have 5 acres of worm beds. We take this dirty green water out of these sprinklers, it settles through the biology and the wood chips with the worms in them, and then it goes through the rocks and it comes out clean water. We're recycling hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. We can irrigate with that water. In another year, you'll come out here again and you'll see all those wood chips have been consumed by the worms, and all the solids that the filtration system is catching has been consumed by the worms, and this whole bed will be full of worm castings. And worm castings are, that's what you pay the big bucks for in your bag there at Walmart.
So those are then pulled out of the beds, they're composted, and those are land applied. And without sources of these nutrients that all originally come through the cow, we could not have organic farming today. They cannot use commercially produced fertilizer.
Growing good feed is critical to healthy cows and a successful dairy. Almost all of what our cows eat is grown right here on the family farms. So one of the methods that we use is called strip tilling. Instead of just coming out here with a lot of equipment and a lot of machines and just blanket tilling all the soil, you're essentially just tilling the ground right where the seed's going to be planted. This has been tilled in prep for the seed. Obviously all this hasn't, but this allows you to keep this soil undisturbed. and then you're able to, with GPS, just plant right down that exact same row that you've tilled. You're not turning your soil over and essentially releasing a lot of that carbon.
We also grow what we call green manure crops, a crop that we don't actually harvest. We grow it up to a certain size, and then we incorporate that into the soil.
You can actually see the organic matter in the soil. Look at all these little bits of root. Last year's crop breaking down, you can actually see it, and you can smell it.
So those nutrients are already properly proportioned because they came originally from plants.
So we're not having to go out and use natural gas to make nitrogen. We've got it here in an organic form. We don't have to go deep into the earth to mine potash. We've got it here in the plant residues. Same is true of phosphorus.
With cow manure and with compost and with worm castings and with the practice we're doing on the farm side, all those pieces contribute to having a soil that is healthy, that is pulling carbon out of the air and banking it in the soil. Not only is our soil banking all this carbon in it, but it's also, as a result, growing more efficient, more productive crops, which are, in turn, pulling more carbon out of the air.
Greenhouse gases are a problem. CO2, methane, nitrous oxide. These are the three most important ones.
Frank is a UC Davis professor for climate change and air quality. That is his world. It's really got me excited about trying to find the solution here and trying to improve our practices.
So on, it's time for farmers like you to really make a difference. And I applaud you for doing what you do.
Okay.
There's something really cool about being able to have like this circle of sustainability. We see the corn in here. We got triticale, we got alfalfa,
Yep.
which are grasses.
Grasses are highly lignified, and our bodies can't break that down. That's what the 4-part stomach in the cow is doing.
Grasses and alfalfa is some of the best products, the best crops for our soils.
Yes.
We have to rotate our crops. The grasses that we need to grow to keep our soil healthy, they're able to convert it to stuff that we do use, and we do use a lot, and we need. This girl here is probably making 50, 60 pounds of milk.
Per day.
Per day. She's putting some of it into the meat, and then the other part she's gonna put back out the back end. We're gonna collect it, process it right, put it back in the soil. Balance is critical, and these girls are a big part of the balance.
That's right.
When you're doing your practices right, all the methane and the greenhouse gases the cows might be contributing are way more than offset by all the crops you're growing to be able to feed those cows.
On the Royal Dairy, we're utilizing a software that was developed by Colorado State University and United States Department of Agriculture. It's called Comet. This software allows us to digitally map every single part of the dairy and assign accurate values for carbon emissions or carbon fixation. This is not an estimate, it's not a guesstimate, this is actually the number.
The goal is to get a good baseline, to see where we're at, and then to utilize the information we're tracking to get better.
I believe he will be the first dairy farmer in the state of Washington to be a net carbon fixer, not an emitter.
Best practices are always changing. We are always improving. I'm not trying to pretend like I know all the answers, but I think that if we were to focus on cows as the solution, not the problem, we can unlock our soil to bank all the carbon we want.
I think it's a total game changer in how people think about farming and how people look at the landscape. They like to drive by on the freeway and see the alfalfa and corn and these other crops and know that, hey, they're all fixing carbon. I think it takes an issue that could be a rural-urban divider, and it makes it a uniter.
We can start making the tweaks and the changes and the improvements that are going to make all of agriculture the solution to climate change and making a better world for everybody.